Hello and welcome to episode 192 of the Rollo and Slappy Show. Today is March 30th, 2020. I am Rollo McFlugel, and with me, as always, is Slappy Jones 2. Show notes page for this episode will be mcflugel.com/192, where you can find our sponsor, libertymugs.com, where we're still able to ship mugs right now despite all of the government interferences in the market and everything. And
there's no shutdown at Liberty Mugs.
As of now, that could...
Our employees are working around the clock in close quarters.
But in all seriousness, there is a chance that stuff could get disrupted, especially if depending on the country. So, if you purchase a mug, you will get a mug. We just can't guarantee you it will be as quickly as possible. So if you have any questions, send us an email or shoot us a message. Slappy, you're laughing, but you have not
I am laughing, but it's not at you. I'm laughing because I pulled up our guest's Twitter and I saw the banner at the top and it made me laugh.
Oh, okay. Because I was about to say, Slappy, I will let you do customer service for a while. Yeah. Not that our actually, whenever something has come up where there has been an issue where I needed to interact with the customer, people have been really, really gracious and awesome. So I appreciate all Liberty Mugs customers, and actually, I take that back. It's customer service has been a dream. So, Slappy, why don't you introduce our guest whose banner you apparently really like?
Yeah, so our guest is Steppy at Pwease, Pweaseno, who is one of our friends from Twitter, and we get in some discussions from time to time. Specifically on this one was with an interaction with Rollo. So I guess you'd be better to explain the situation. But what I was laughing at on his Twitter page is the banner says, "Future scientist proclaims space is totally fake and gay." So got a laugh out of me. Anyway, welcome to the show, Steppy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And it is both of those things.
That's proven. It's science. So, yep. Rollo, walk me through the little Twitter interaction you guys had.
Okay. Well, I think we agree on most stuff, but this was a while ago when all the coronavirus stuff was starting to happen and people were starting to stock up on supplies. There tends to be a wing of the libertarian movement or libertarian adjacent people that tend to like violence a little bit, or at least appear to like the idea of violence. So there's this one tweet in particular that I came across that said, "Shout out to the people without guns who are panic buying supplies for the people with guns." And then Steppy just sent me this one. Gun owners watching non-gun owners stockpile apocalypse supplies for them. And my reaction was like, if this is a joke, okay, I get it. That's fine. But there seems to be a lot of people that are kind of, I don't know, rubbing their hands together at the idea of this. There's a lot of people that when you talk about, prepping, they talk about how like, oh, ammunition's my currency. And, we'll probably get into that more. But what I want to start out with is Steppy said, like, he kind of stopped me and he said, well, even if it's a joke, that's probably not that great. So before I start putting words in your mouth, Steppy, why don't you...
I was going to say, we can ask him.
Yeah, we have the technology. Yeah. So what's your opinion on tweets like that, even if they're jokes? Let's start out with that.
So, first off, obviously, no one is anti-joke here, and the moment you say that, it's like, oh no, I'm just about to tie myself into a pretzel. Yeah.
No, it's okay because
Slappy
and I
pull it off.
Slappy and I were kind of talking about this before, and I actually was more of the. And yeah, jokes are jokes. We're all, none of us are fun police here. But I used to be more on the, maybe call people out for bad jokes a little bit more. But I don't even know what I'm saying right now. So, Steppy, go ahead.
Yeah. So, there's no. I think there's no off-topic subject for a joke. It's just a matter of execution. I mean, in my opinion, like those jokes didn't like pass the execution, but who cares? Like, go on and say it. Now, where this phenomenon, like, these are people who are supposedly, whatever it is we are, they're on some kind of loose ideological team, especially according to outsiders with us. Like, and we're constantly getting lumped with like this idea of like Somali lawlessness and like, oh, just, go be a warlord, go live outside the law. And when people do this, they're LARPing as like, oh man, I can't wait to be a warlord. I can't wait to like, just mug a caravan of innocent people and take their supplies after the boogaloo. And it's like, it just seems like a blunder on so many levels: moral, strategic, psychological. It's a marketing failure. You get a laugh out of your friends, but like, if you're really trying to advance liberty or whatever it is you're trying to advance, you could not be shooting yourself in the foot harder with the so-called normies than to say, man, I can't wait to shoot you and take your toilet paper.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. That actually clears up a lot. But it makes sense, and we're already kind of defensive with what our positions are because we just get constantly strawmanned, and there's something to be said about making jokes about the strawman, but I think there's a kind of a degree of honesty in those kinds of jokes too with these people, because these are also the people that. I remember there was a particular libertarian podcast host who has this like gun training course or like self-defense training course where they do a lot of shooting and like home defense kind of stuff. And the way he advertises it, it's very much like, yeah, so if bad guys try to come to your house, you're going to be able to blow them away. You're going to be able to rip bullets right through their chest. And he doesn't say it like that, but that's the kind of vibe you get with it. And like, even I'm sitting there, someone, who's obviously someone who's full gun rights kind of deal, and I'm sitting there like, ugh, like this sounds really like bloodlusty, and it makes me uncomfortable, and it makes me uncomfortable for you, the kind of person you are when you talk like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, okay, so let's just say, like, ultimately, this is a war of ideas, like, that's bubbling in our culture. And, like, obviously the dream is a peaceful transition. So it's like, no shots fired is the absolute dream. But let's suppose that's not it. And, like, we're in some kind of scenario where it's like, we're waging, psychological war against the state, and perhaps there's physical violence involved. The worst thing you can do is be the weaker warlord in that scenario, because then if you're just someone on the sidelines, you say, well, I have this state, they have legitimacy, they're equally moral to this, like, these small-time roving warlords who seem to just want to steal toilet paper. Like, why don't I just go with the winning side? And I can't even fault that logic.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what happens in practice. You look at what's going on in the Middle East with all the warlords that are over there, and the warlords that side with the U.S. after the occupation starts don't get blown to bits. I mean, it's not like those warlords have always existed. They're just, cuddling up with the current bigger source of power.
Right. So I think, like, in order to differentiate, and of course to live up to our ideals as people who believe in liberty or anarchy and whatever stripe you are, like, you need to actually, like, embody something that wins a morale victory, like, that inspires people. People need to say, oh, those people remind me of the founding fathers. Like, warlord is not that doesn't sell.
Well, yeah, and two, it's like for trying to win people over to our side, and they want to hear like, all right, you've got this great vision for a libertarian society where we don't have this government and it's all better. How are we going to get there? What are the steps that are going to happen? You go, well, you're going to have to kind of join my posse, and you're going to learn how to shoot a rifle and buy a bunch of rifles, have a bunch of ammunition. If you don't do that, well, someone's probably going to steal your stuff, kill you, rape your wife, take your children as slaves, and so yeah, that's going to be part of what's going to happen. So why don't you? All right, you want to sign up for our newsletter, find out more about what's going to happen? I mean, it's just the most unappealing thing that you could possibly ever hear of. And I know I exaggerate. I use some hyperbole there with what it is, but this whole idea, and it's just like, oh yeah, when the stake goes down, me doing my all my drills and everything right now, this is in preparation for it. And not to say that, being a good with weapons isn't a good thing, and it's not a good skill to have. But like really selling that off as something that's very likely to be necessary, or a scenario that's kind of standing between us and our libertarian society, that's you're not winning anybody over.
All right, so I'm going to throw this in there. Given the context of the time with the coronavirus and people panicking and panic buying, and also the culture, or at least I don't know the culture, but certainly a debate in the culture over the last several years about guns, and people saying you don't need this gun, you don't need that gun. The founding fathers wanted you to have a hunting rifle or whatever the arguments are, right? And these gun people are tired of the anti-gun people threatening to take their guns, threatening to call the cops on them. We have red flag laws. We had the guy in Maryland recently, which I don't know all the circumstances of that, but SWAT team raided him and killed him and shot his girlfriend too. That was what's his name? Duncan Lemp.
Yep.
So these things are happening, and so the very pro-gun people who, for the last several years, or at least since they've been talking about it, have always heard about how guns are bad. And so, Rollo, we've discussed this before. Sometimes you have to have kind of a soft landing. Sometimes you have to hit people over the head. And to all you people out there who are saying I'm evil for owning guns and you're all scared and you're all going to go buy your supplies, well, what are you going to do when it collapses and I have the guns and you don't? And it's kind of like, wake up, see that these things aren't as evil as you're saying. If that's... And I don't know what the original joke. I mean, I know what the joke was. I don't know who said it. I don't know what the conversation was around it. But I could see it being useful in that sense, because when I first heard it, I think, oh shit, yeah. I mean, if things really went down, it'd sure be nice to have an arsenal here, just in case. Not because I want to go shoot my neighbor and steal his stuff, but if you don't have any, you're leaving yourself open. And so, in a way, I think the joke or that meme is effective somewhat in getting people to think about the importance of protecting yourself, while the joke saying I'm going to steal all your stuff is, kind of weird. But it's like, yeah, wake up, because now we're in a situation where you might need a gun, and for the last 5 years, 10 years, you've been saying no one should have them. So what are your thoughts on that? Is that reasonable, unreasonable? Am I missing the point?
I think that's a silver lining of this kind of humor. I don't think it's the intention. Like, I would say that, and this is speculation, but I think these jokes come from a very in-group, pointing at the out-group and laughing kind of vibe. Just like, hey, we got the guns, they don't got the guns. Now, if it does happen to to use the phrase red pill the normies about guns, that's great. And I think that it is awesome. But I don't think that's the intention, and probably the effect of it is going to be a little bit more of a disgust reaction and people saying like, hey, government, like we got these crazies out here. Like looking at a different situation that's kind of brewing where people are starting to meme threats into existence. If you look at like the rent strikes and the way people are talking about landlords right now, like you could say, oh, that like this is sort of telling landlords that they kind of trusted their tenants too much and they're over leveraged and maybe they need to look back at their business model. But like if the landlords are scared to death about losing their livelihood, because people are like, oh, rent strike, like, and they're organizing whole buildings, like I think it's justified that they're afraid. Like. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, because if you're saying all this, I mean, not everyone on social media uses a pseudonym, and if you're sitting on Twitter or Facebook,
only the cool people do.
Yeah, and making all these threats to your landlord about not paying them, and they come across that, what are you going to do when they say, yeah, actually, we're not redoing your lease, we're not comfortable with the risks that you're that are associated with you, that you deciding that you're not going to pay your rent and you're going to all that good stuff. And I think the same kind of applies with the if you're going on the internet and whether it's a joke or not, and making kind of veiled threats about shooting other people for their toilet paper, it just doesn't. It gets icky real quick, and it becomes, especially too when it is kind of this situation where, like you said, Slappy, and I don't think we're really going to have that Mad Max total collapse scenario.
Certainly hope not.
Right. I think the likelihood of it is just like so much has to go so horribly wrong. For that to happen.
No doubt.
But even still, just that kind of, I don't know, that glimpse into that reality, and the person kind of ominously standing, you picture that person ominously standing there with their arsenal. It just makes it for a very uncomfortable situation. And I agree with Steppy too, that I think it's the, any sort of, kind of slap in the face to wake up, you should be getting guns too, isn't exactly what the point of it is. And it's kind of just the a convenient way to, like, oh, this is just my way of educating people. It's kind of a weird. I don't want to get like into.
I'm not saying that that's their.
No. I know. I'm
just saying.
I'm just using your.
Yeah, because, I mean, with anything we say, pretty much like 95% of the population is going to roll their eyes. But you might get that 5% who go, oh, how about that? And then if they start learning or coming over, I would say that's a pretty good thing, even though, like, I was listening to Bob Murphy's show, and he had on, I don't remember what the guy's name was. He was some conservative. It was just this weekend or couple days ago, and the guy talked about public schooling, and when Bob Murphy said he's against it, he was like kind of shocked. You could tell in his voice. He was like, oh, like, I'm dealing with that kind of libertarian. I didn't really know you guys exist, basically, is what he kind of sounded. He didn't say those words, but that was kind of the reaction. And so I'm guessing in his mind, he was thinking, why did I come on with this guy? This guy doesn't even think public school exists. Like, so like, I just think a lot of the things we say are just so off the wall to your normie out there, that if the joke, well, we can, I know, see, I agree with you guys, certainly, a lot about this, but if someone goes, oh, wow, man, if things really fall apart and the police are all sick and they're not coming around and everyone's scrambling for food, like, I better have a gun. I better think hard about my stance on not having guns. I saw another meme. It was like, leftists are showing up at the gun store asking for a semi-fully automatic, whatever, all the buzz terms they use, assault rifle, because now they want to protect their stuff. And of course, I don't think that's true. I don't know. Are gun sales going way up lately?
I've heard anecdotally that like leftists are trying to buy guns now.
Okay. Yeah. So it's like, you put those things out there, and then maybe they'll kind of back off their getting the state to drop the hammer on everyone who owns a gun that looks scary. So I think there's, part of every joke can get across to some people, and the reality is when Rollo, this as well as anyone, but you try to approach someone on like good terms and they just get mad at you and tell you to leave, and it's like, all right, well then how about I just get a whole bunch of guns, and since you hate them, I'll just come take your stuff. How about that? And it's kind of like a way to get your point across with a hammer instead of trying to discuss it when the other person isn't really open to hearing you anyway.
Was that to me or to
whoever wants to answer? I was just talking and rambling, and
Stephanie,
I don't even
you've
know
got something for that. I don't want to, you're.
Oh, no. I think that we've all, tried to navigate the minefield of someone who's just like not ready for debate, and you just try like. I don't know. I don't argue online as much anymore because it's just
I'm trying.
You get too old for that.
Yeah, you might as well like bang your head into a brick wall instead.
Yeah, I do know what you mean about just like making crazy analogies, trying to just like attack it from every angle, and like ultimately the person just thinks that everything you're doing fundamentally must be a lie because it disagrees with their conclusion. So like there's no point.
Yeah, I think it's certainly different that if you're in the midst of a conversation and you make this and you say like, all right, well, let's just say that the police aren't there to protect you, and you've got a bunch of stuff and I've got guns, and I'm going to come, and I think that's a lot less ominous than just kind of like sending it out there as a general thing. And two, as far as just like using that as a method to try to shake people awake, I think there's much better ways of doing that you shouldn't have to resort to.
Sure, there could be,
but making those.
But that's what I was saying too. Like, there's certainly better ways. There's certainly better ways to explain why we need to have guns. In my opinion,
it's like with Bitcoin, where people trying to explain why and convince people that they should get Bitcoin. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say, they're like, hey, guess what? There's only going to be 21 million, and if you don't get some now, I'm going to have all of them, and you're going to have to be, I'm going to be your boss, and you're going to work for me. To like
sure,
a leftist
but people do say, keep holding your fiat, and we'll see how that works out for you.
Yeah, but it's with the also with the you shouldn't do that. You should be buying Bitcoin. And here's, as soon as you want interested in doing that, I will direct you and help you however I can. There's a much different
sure, but we're talking
implication.
About memes.
Talk about what?
Memes. We're not talking about like if you're going to put a meme out there, it's got to be a picture, it's got to be a couple words, and it's got to make an impression.
I guess, I don't know the Bitcoin meme world as much, but I haven't seen the, snarky, I'm going to economically dominate you and buy all your toilet paper Bitcoin memes. I don't know. Not
for the collapse, but there's certainly, I don't know. I totally unprepared. Don't have any Bitcoin memes on hand, but you certainly get some of that. Like, I've told you about Bitcoin, you don't listen. Well, when your paper money's valueless, then you can come and then we'll talk about Bitcoin when you could have had it 5 years ago or whatever the case is. Because it gets frustrating talking to people who don't want to. I'm not even saying don't want to agree, but don't even want to try or ask or.
Yeah. I see people talking about their moon Lambos and stuff like that, of course. But Like I haven't seen the. I've seen the "you will miss out" plenty, but not the like "I will make you regret missing out." Like,
Yeah, the
True.
implications are much less ominous, and like there's a difference between you're not going to be as wealthy as you could have been versus I'm going to be pointing a gun at your face.
But that's what a gun is. Like, you can't be like, I'm going to plant flowers in the barrel of my gun while you don't have one. And if I did need to use it, I could shoot it. Like, money's for buying things and guns are for shooting things. So
Right,
it's going to be a lot more ominous when you're talking about guns.
But most libertarians and most gun owners, most defender of gun rights, when they talk about it, it's not an offensive thing. It's for defense. It's for like, if you're breaking into my house, then I'm going to stick a gun in your face. Not that, oh, you should have a gun to defend yourself because I am going to be the one breaking into your house otherwise.
But that's what it gets across, because it's like, I have the guns, you don't. And it's like, well, then I better get some to defend myself, because that's why you use them. I mean, you're defending them against someone, and who's going to be the one getting you? It's going to be the guy with the gun.
Well, it shouldn't be the libertarians saying that we shouldn't have a government and we don't need the police, who's turning around and saying, in this world where there is no government and no police to protect you, you better be ready because I'm going to come and take your stuff. I mean, it's just someone who's making that argument, just like it's just a huge hypocrisy. They're just claiming to be the new government when that power vacuum gets there.
That's like an arsonist firefighter argument. Like, I will both create and solve the problem.
No, but it's a meme though. Like, if these guys are like writing articles and like talking and being like, all right, coronavirus has this many people in. I went to the supermarket today and the shelves are empty. I look at my shelves and they're starting to get empty. Can't wait till they are. We're going to go start robbing the neighborhood. That's much different than a meme that says, like, thanks for buying your stuff for us.
But that's exactly what a meme's for.
What?
That's what the job of the meme is for, is to take something that you could write in an essay and condense it down to something that you can read and look at.
I don't know. There's a lot. Sure, but there's a lot of I guess my point is to say, like, when I see that meme, I don't think, oh shit, these guys are coming to take my stuff. I think I better be prepared for someone to come and take my stuff. And that was my initial reaction when I saw it. Like, even before we talked about any of this, it definitely got me to think. I'm like, wow, I better be prepared just in case it ever got to that point.
I don't think that's how a lot of people see it, though. I think the statist lens is just like, oh, I found the far right reactionaries on the internet. Like, I'm calling the authorities.
And I also don't think that was the intention of the memes either. It was more like, whether it was a joke or not, and I'm sure that the vast majority of them were making it as a joke, but that it was not to say like, oh, some people, not being, me, just some bad people with guns are going to take your stuff. It's
since I'm not a collectivist like Rollo, I don't I don't care who's coming to get. I don't care if it's the libertarian
right, but
or the guy up the street. I want to be prepared.
I know, and I agree with that. I'm the same way, but when the people making these memes, I don't think that was what their intention. It was like us gun owners, or me as a gun owner.
I don't know. I don't know their intentions.
Yeah, well, it just with the. I guess it would make sense to talk about like the Boogaloo type thing too, and because that's an interesting one, because a lot of us like, and I think talk about the Boogaloo is kind of fun to talk about because it's, I think most people, a lot of people in our circles that talk about the Boogaloo, it's kind of the either a joke or just the absolute worst case scenario. This is what's going to happen. But then there are the people that take it and they're like,
want it.
Yes, they explicitly want it.
I know exactly what you're saying.
And so,
I mean,
it's kind of the same. It's very, very similar thing. It's like, all right, what kind of, these people making boogaloo, asking, all right, is this one of the boogaloo, or are we starting the boogaloo now? And you see all these comments being like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's go. I'm ready. It's like, are they all jokes? Or are they all like kind of half jokes, but also like if you're serious, I'm serious kind of deal? Not that those people are going out and grabbing their guns and starting to shoot up the
they would
the
last
local
7, maybe 8 seconds.
Right. But it's just that mindset, and I think that comes through very strongly, especially to people that are kind of predisposed to not really look at it well. Like even I think of my parents who are conservatives, think that you should own guns, are not gun grabby at all. But if they saw those memes, they would be like, these people are evil. And these are awful people. Like they would not, they wouldn't look at these memes or the way these people are talking very well. It wouldn't be like, oh, that's kind of a joke, but
if you're not steeped in like what, I guess for me, like it does come back to sort of consequences and how things just sort of seem to other groups from the outside looking in. Because I get the joke, like being in on it, but like with the Boogaloo stuff, like people don't understand how much background we have on the relationship of the state to the individual in terms of like red flag laws and like all sorts of Bundy Ranch, and like we have all these backstories and we know our rights and we want to know if we're being detained, and most people don't engage with things that way. So they see this meme where it's like, oh, when the alphabet boys come across your booby trap and the last thing they hear is dueling banjos, and it's like, okay, that is hilarious. It's very funny. But it does seem very much coming back to that like guy who did the commercials about like, blow your robber's head clear off his body. Like it's the same kind of thing where it's like, if you don't know why that joke is being made, it's messed up.
Yes, and I think you could say that about almost every joke. That's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there's not a whole lot of good PR anarchists out there getting the message across softly in a good way. Let's be honest.
I do want to say too, because it is tough. I mean, those inside jokes are like we're saying, they're hilarious, they're funny, and I don't want to tell people to not make inside jokes and share it around. We don't want to self-censor. But it's like, man, there's a tough line to cross, or a tough line, or it's like, where is it? I don't really know.
Sure. And the reason we, like you said earlier, the reason we don't like the state, hate the state, is because it's violence, and they're just going to enforce their violence on everyone, whether you comply or if you don't comply, then they're going to throw their violence at you, and that's what we object to. So why would we be the ones doing the violence? I totally get that. It's not a good way to like think as a libertarian, someone who wants freedom, to be like, well, I have all the guns now.
And to the casual observer, a lot of those memes come off as like this kind of honeypot, like incitement of like, bring me the fight, and then I will win.
Yeah, and the other thing, I mean, if I don't know who's seeing these, I kind of assume it's like the inside joke or whatever. And like I said, when I first saw it, it got me to think about how I can better protect myself and my family. But like you said, you see that, you're thinking, I'm gonna call the cops. This guy's dangerous. So you don't want them to come after you.
Yeah, and it's too because now after the Virginia rally, the Virginia rally, which they did a fantastic job with. I'm not trying to denigrate anything that they did at all there, but there's a lot of pictures and videos floating around of people. Well, just generally.
But they still passed their law that they were.
No. I'm just saying that with the rally, it was peaceful. They did a good job.
That was a PR victory, which is very, very rare out of the libertarian world. Total PR victory.
But at the same time, you saw a lot of people that anytime they see someone wearing any amount of tactical gear, have any sort of rifle, here they think semi-automatic means that you pull the trigger and it shoots out 8,000 bullets per second.
It's only 6,000.
Right. Yeah. That terrifies them, and they think it's awful. So it's just like, man, when that's the picture that you're trying to portray, and then people see that like you're speaking very aggressively too, it does not. I don't blame the outsiders for the majority of them to be like, oh no, these people are dangerous and crazy, and like these people don't. These people, they say they want freedom and liberty. They just want. Oh, they don't really want that. They just want to be the next. They just want to be the bullies to come and take the stuff. I don't even know where I was really going with that. I kind of brought that stuff up, but it's. I guess it's just it's a very, very, very uphill battle against kind of even most people. I know. I said my parents are in favor of guns. I know my mom saw pieces of my rifle. And she's like, oh, I don't even want to look at it. She doesn't want to have anyone take it away from me. But it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. And the more that you do that, the more likely that they're going to probably double down on their negative reactions that get elicited when they interact with any of that kind of thing. And it's just kind of like, I feel like it's more just poking the bear and just kind of riling those people up.
Yeah.
But then when things get worse for you and perception gets worse, like, who do you have to blame?
Yeah. I mean, I think you dropped a key phrase in there, which was uphill battle. The state has done a tremendous job of making people disgusted with guns, except if they're in certain hands. And I think the gun rally went off like as perfectly as it could have, but there's just going to be a certain fairly large segment of the population that's like, wait, why did civilians have the things that cops should have?
Right.
And I don't know what you do about that. Like, truth be told, if that were an easy problem to fix, it'd be fixed. But that's the reaction you're dealing with. That's the psychology.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever really does get fixed, or at least there's nothing explicit that happens that fixes it. I think it's just a gradual change that happens for whatever reason. Just I keep thinking of Bitcoin with stuff like, I don't think there's going to be a major collapse of the dollar and it's like, oh, and now we're on Bitcoin. I think it's just going to be a very gradual replacement as the dollar inflates and Bitcoin appreciates in value. More and more people are going to move over to it, and that's where I actually think to kind of contrast this with the Bitcoin community again. I think this is where they do a really good job of trying to get new people over. They can be very aggressive, and there's the whole toxic Bitcoin maximalist meme and idea out there, and I'm sure there's some people that are out there that have talked about their altcoin they like, and they get slammed up the side of the head by Bitcoiners saying how awful their altcoin is and everything. But when you have, I think if you poll most people, when they talk to someone about Bitcoin, it's like they're very excited and optimistic and trying to be helpful to the new people. And you might get a lot of them to be dismissive of the fiat stuff and say, oh yeah, well, you're gonna, it's gonna lose value. But it's always with that idea of like, well, I'm trying to help you. And as soon as they say something like, all right, I want to get into it, where do I start? You have people crawling over each other to try to help.
But do you not think that's the case with the gun culture?
I don't think so.
I think that a lot of them, and probably most of them, if you went to them and asked for help, well,
I don't know about Twitter, but I know in my personal life, anyone I know who has guns, whenever like you show an interest, they're like, yeah, come out with me. I'll show you. I'll teach you how to do anything.
See, I'm from deep blue country, so like I don't know anyone in my personal life who's big into guns. So I only get the online interactions, and that's it's a lot of dick flexing.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll agree with Slappy. In my own in non-online life, all the gun owners that I know
my actual life
are like very happy to show and excited to help.
Show you different kinds, different ammunition, how to shoot, how to load, how to do everything, and then how to do it safely. Mm-hmm. They're huge on gun safety.
Yeah,
you have to be.
And I think for the most part, even the people on Twitter, the people we're talking about would tend to be like that. Is when someone, but there's the but from getting from that like, I don't really like what you're talking about to, all right, why don't you show me? I think they're much more likely to sever the relationship, or even the opportunity for that relationship, or for that oh hey, why don't you show me what's going on, kind of teach me about guns before.
Yeah, and then they immediately pivot into, I bet you think it's a fully semi-automatic. Owned him
with a scope.
Yeah, and I say that, and there's going to be people, there are probably ample opportunities for me, for people to like go and screenshot my tweets yelling at people about Bitcoin. So
right.
But it's just what's different about it is that there's that it's, I don't really how to get it across, but that threat of violence, I think, carries a lot more weight. I'm trying to think of it. I have an example in my head that's not very good. And I don't want to say it yet because it's just going to be stupid and sound real weird.
Yeah.
It would be like something like this. It's like if you're trying to explain to a woman like how to protect herself and everything, and like you're walking a girl, you meet a girl at a bar and you're walking her home because there's no one else, and you're trying to keep her safe, and so you're walking her home alone. It's the middle of the night, and you're trying to explain to her personal safety and everything and how she can help protect herself, and you're kind of
mansplaining.
Yes. Whatever it is, I'm coming up with this off the fly, trying to make it as less awful as possible. And you make the comment.
This is the worst first date ever.
Yeah. How is Rollo still single? And you say something to her like, yeah, you don't want to be caught alone with a guy because he might rape you. Like saying something like that.
Now you're the rapist, like 100%.
Yeah, and because it's like, it would be different than something like if you were explaining, finances and like, oh, you don't want to be in the stock market because, you could lose all your money there. Like it's the implication. But that's what it is. There's that violent, like very serious implication that comes with talking about, I'm pointing a gun in your face, as opposed to, well, I'm going to capture the value of your wealth with my Bitcoin against your fiat.
I love that we spent like almost an hour talking about the ethereal nature of the looming threat of this meme, and then we just summed it up by using a different meme. Like, this is the implication.
Pretty much. Actually, it's too late now, but stop listening
Ladies,
and just go watch that
more
episode.
Lessons in self-defense, you can find him at Rollo McLean.
Yeah, I'm happy to walk any ladies home at the end of the night from the bar.
I can protect you. I got a lot of guns.
Yeah. I will tell you exactly the kind of person you want to stay away from.
Okay.
My door's locked from both sides.
I mean, that's kind of why I didn't want to bring up that example. But do you kind of see what I'm getting at with that? Where
Yes.
it's just like if you were to say that to a woman, like she would immediately be like, I should probably run. And if I have pepper spray, I should probably use that first.
But if she has a gun, she's protected.
Right. Then she's walking you to your house so she
Yes.
can steal some stuff.
Correct. Steal all the stuff you bought for the
all your
week.
toilet paper.
Mhm.
But this scenario can't happen because the government has closed all the bars. So.
True. So we'll have to wait.
Yes. But I don't know. Have I gotten that like? Well, I guess I did because I made.
I get your point. I mean,
implication.
it's like no, I know what you're saying, and I'm pretty much. I mean, at least I don't see anything wrong with being a pacifist. I won't say I am. If someone came and attacked my family, I would certainly use force to defend them. But I do think that way. So I'm not comfortable with like violent memes, but I just I don't know. I don't like criticizing jokes if they're jokes. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not even saying I'm sure you know this. I'm not making the case for pacifism here. I'm just saying that if you're
No, I just threw that out there because I'm not like a violent guy. I don't throw out violent memes. I don't do violent tweets. It's not my thing. So I just wanted to make that clear because I did take the side of the aggressive gun owners in this conversation, but that's not me. I'm not in that camp, so I might not have even done a good job taking their side.
Maybe.
No, but like I don't know. Really, my whole thing about all of this is like, what do we want? What do we believe? And what rhetoric are we using to achieve it? And like, I think the reason that this sort of hit like a sour note, this like meme, is it's not what we want. We don't want warlords. It's not what we believe in. We don't believe in senseless violence.
Right.
And it's not good rhetoric. So it's just like this major strikeout. I guess it's like a little funny in the right situation, like in joke, but it's just such like a belly flop of a meme in terms of what it's achieving.
Yeah, like I've had my share of very off-color, awful jokes that get shared in very careful company, and I think we all do that. We all play different roles with different people in our lives, and we're not being. I don't think that's being like a, two-faced or whatever. It's just that you got to know your audience and know who you're talking to, and
Certainly.
I agree with you, Steppy. There, if you're trying to get across a point, even if you're trying to have fun and don't mean anything by it, you can kind of muck things up if you say the wrong thing in the wrong company. And it's when we have pseudonyms on the internet and we're not like face to face with these people, it can get very easy to kind of forget that. And I'm certainly guilty of that. I can be more aggressive than I should be with talking to people on Twitter sometimes. I forget what I was going to say about something. Oh, well.
Well, do you have a free market?
Yeah.
Or did you want to wrap up?
I don't know. Is there any other points? I think we kind of beat the horse to death a little bit. I don't know if we came to a satisfactory resolution to people, but I don't know that you can with this. I think it's just more like, kind of watch, be careful with how you present things. Look at, the company you're around, even if even if your audience is a specific group, sometimes, especially in Twitter where it's public, anyone can look at that, anyone can retweet your stuff and see it. So just, be careful. You don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to say I don't want people self-censoring themselves, but just, like Steppy, you just said, what's the kind of idea you're trying to get across, and really try to be true to that. So hopefully,
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to win the meme wars here. We don't want to be weird. Like, I mean, we want to be funny.
Yeah, libertarians, don't be weird.
Oh no, we're ruined.
Oh, I'm out.
No, I know. I can't disagree with you.
I mean, I think a good example is just look at the tractor memers, and they're always perfect. So see, that was funny and not threatening. So
it was weird though. So there goes my theory.
So the weirdness was still there.
Yeah, but if this, what I was just trying to say, if this generates some discussion, I think that's good. I think it's good if it just makes you think twice about what you're saying and what you're doing. And that goes with like everything in life. I mean, we've all worn egg in our face for saying or doing something dumb because we didn't realize someone else was watching, and it could have been totally innocent, but end up kind of feeling pretty stupid. So I guess just carry that in your internet dealings, making memes and stuff. So Steppy, putting you on the spot, and if you don't have one, that's perfectly okay, because I have one in my back pocket. Do you have a free market success story?
Well, it's a success story to be determined. I mean,
Is this your great
I think
communist experiment?
Yeah. No, it's going to be great. So we pool all of our resources together, and then we force everyone else to do it. So, yeah, like all the gyms in my state are closed down, and I'm in a very like boutique, small gym, tight-knit community. Mm-hmm. Everyone's extremely loyal, and so far, I'm impressed with the sort of level of operation that the owner has managed to have, sort of in spite of the seeming intent of the law. He's been doing a ton of online content. He's been throwing together like remote sessions, and like still managed to do, in a perfectly legal sense, public outdoor workouts, maintaining social distancing. So, like sort of watching this guy thread the needle and keep this community glued together despite the best efforts of the state to try and like force him not to make money. People aren't canceling their memberships on him.
Yeah, that's great then. I like hearing that kind of stuff.
That was perfect.
It's like in Jurassic Park, life always finds a way. Well, markets always find a way too, and even despite the government's shutting down the typical stuff, there's still demand for working out, and not everyone has access at home to equipment or expertise on what to do and how to do stuff. So that's pretty neat that there's guys still out there hustling through it and being creative and finding different ways. Because hey, if the market couldn't respond to the government interfering with stuff, then we'd be under just like abject statism and just no markets whatsoever. It's the ability of the market to do that keeps the government at bay for a little bit. So it's like we've had the most powerful governments in the history of the world over us in this in the last century or so, and despite that, we've seen incredible advances in standard of livings. Poverty and hunger has just like fallen through the floor, and that's not because of the growth of governments. It's because of the resilience and power of markets working despite all of that stuff. So We'll leave on
Amen.
a positive note.
There we go.
Meme for markets. So, all right, Steppy. Why don't you tell people how they can find you if you want them to find you? Shill anything you got to shill.
Yeah, I'm just a Twitter persona, so at Pwease no. I'm sure that's in the show notes or wherever you guys write that down.
Yeah, it'll be.
We will have it there.
Yeah, mcflugel.com/192. So Steppy, thanks for coming on. This was an interesting conversation. It's always nice to have a little bit of a disagreement and debate. Keeps things lively and makes each of us kind of think through what we think and really defend it. And I think that the best people to argue ideas with are other libertarians because steel sharpens steel.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right, everyone. mcflugel.com/192. Check out Steppy on Twitter. He's a great follow. Also check out Liberty Mugs. And please leave a review if you'd like to on wherever you catch us on your podcatcher and share it around. All right. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you next week.
Peace.